In this video, we discuss our next article, Fermat's Little Theorem and Pseudoprimes. So let's have Fermat's Theorem, Theorem 5.1. Statement. Let P be a prime number and suppose that P doesn't divide A, then A to the power P minus 1 is congruent to 1 modulo P. So this is the statement proved by Fermat. So P being a prime number and P doesn't divide A, where A is integer. If P does not divide integer A, then A to the power P minus 1 is congruent to 1 modulo P, where A is any integer. Suppose 7 is prime number and 7 doesn't divide 8, then 8 to the power 7 minus 1 is 6. 8 to the power 6 is congruent to 1 modulo 7. Suppose 5 is prime number, A is equals to 2 and 5 doesn't divide 2, then 2 to the power 5 minus 1 is 4. 2 to the power 4, that is 16. 16 is congruent to 1 modulo 5. It is 2 because 16 minus 1, this difference is divided by 5. Okay, so to understand this statement, I gave these two examples, but actually we have to prove the theorem. So let P be prime and suppose that P doesn't divide A, then A to the power P minus 1 is congruent to 1 modulo P. So let's have theorem. Consider the first P minus 1 positive multiples of A, that is the integers A, 2A, 3A up to and so on P minus 1A. So here we choose first P minus 1 positive multiples of A, positive multiples of A. So first P minus 1 positive multiples of A means up to P minus 1, up to P minus 1 multiples of A. So 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A up to and so on P minus 2A, P minus 1A. These are the first P minus 1 positive multiples of A. So consider these integers. None of these numbers is congruent modulo P to any other. So these are incongruent modulo P, means A is not congruent to 2A modulo P, 2A is not congruent to 3A modulo P, or A is not congruent to P minus 1 A modulo P, and vice versa. So none of these are congruent integers modulo P. Why? Because if RA is congruent to RS modulo P, where R is lies in between 1 and P minus 1, S is lies in between 1 and P minus 1, means R and S takes values R comma S is equals to what? 1, 2, 3 up to P minus 1. So here RA is congruent to, suppose here we suppose RA is congruent to RS modulo P. This implies R is congruent to S modulo P. This implies R is congruent to S modulo P. Here R is congruent to AS modulo P. This is not R, here is AS modulo P. So this implies R is congruent to S modulo P. And by definition of congruence, P divides R minus 1. P divides R minus 1, but it is not possible. Okay, so as your R and S lies in between 1 and P minus 1, so its difference is also lies in between up to 1 and P minus 1. So P does not divide R minus 1, as P is greater than R minus S in this case. Why? Because your difference R minus S is lies in between 1 and P minus 1, and P is greater than P minus 1. That's why p must be greater than r minus 1. So p does not divides r minus s. So that's why it is contradiction. So as here from this inequality we obtained p could not divide r minus s, but here we obtained p divides r minus s. That's why it is contradiction. That's why none of these integers is congruent modulo p, means they are incongruent modulo p. So therefore a, 2a, 3a up to and so on p minus 1a are same as the integers 1, 2, 3 up to and so on p minus 1 modulo p in some order. Multiplying all these congruences together, then we get, so if we multiply this congruency, we obtain a into 2a into 3a up to and so on p minus 1a. Product of these integers is congruent to 1 into 2 into 3 into up to and so on p minus 1, product of this. So from this we obtain these multiple integers up to p minus 1 of a are equal to this. So if we take product of this integer congruent to this, we obtain this one, a into 2a into 3a congruent to 1 into 2 into 3 up to and so on p minus 1 modulo p. Now a into a square, a square into a cube up to and so on. If we multiply all a's, the product of all a's, how many a's are here, how many multiples are here total, p minus 1. So suppose if we take these two, a1 into 2a, it is a square, again a1 into 2 into 3a, it is a cube. So in this fashion product of this is equals to what, a to the power p minus 1 into 1 into 2 into 3 up to and so on p minus 1, congruent to 1 into 2 into 3 up to and so on p minus 1 modulo p. But this is equals to what, 1 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 3 up to and so on p minus 1. This is nothing but p minus 1 factorial. So this implies a to the power p minus 1 into p minus 1 factorial congruent to p minus 1 factorial modulo p. So p minus 1 factorial, p minus 1 factorial cancel out. We obtain a to the power p minus 1 congruent to 1 modulo p, which proves the theorem. So proof of Fermat's theorem is easier and statement is too much important. So what was the statement? If p is a prime, a is any integer, and if p does not divides a, then a to the power p minus 1 is congruent to 1 modulo p. So if p doesn't divide a, then this imply a to the power p minus 1 congruent to 1 modulo p. Suppose if a to the power p minus 1 congruent to 1 modulo p, then whether it is possible that p doesn't divide a, I mean to say whether the converse of Fermat's theorem is true or not. So converse of Fermat's theorem is not true. Let's have example. The converse of Fermat's theorem is not true because if for some n belongs to set of natural number, a to the power n minus 1 is congruent to 1 modulo n, then n need not be a prime. So here they have given example 2 to the power 341 minus 1. This is congruent to 1 modulo 341, but 341 is not prime as it is factorized as 11 into 31. Okay, so that's why converse of Fermat's theorem is not true. So whenever a to the power p minus 1 is congruent to 1 modulo n, it doesn't mean your n is prime. It means converse of Fermat's theorem need not be true. Now we use Fermat's theorem to solve the examples. So this is the application of Fermat's theorem, one of the application of Fermat's theorem. So problem set 5.2, first example. Use Fermat's theorem to verify that 17 divides 11 raised to 104 plus 1. So in general way we can't predict whether 17 divides 11 raised to 104 plus 1 because it is cumbersome to calculate 11's power 104. It takes too much time, but using Fermat's theorem we can check or we can verify that 17 divides 11 raised to 104 plus 1. So this is the application for Fermat's theorem. So now here 17 is prime number, so clearly 17 doesn't divides 11. So as P does not divides A is any integer, or A may be prime, as integer may be prime also, it is possible. So since 17 does not divides 11, then by Fermat's theorem, what was Fermat's theorem? A raised to P minus 1 is congruent to 1 modulo P. Here value of A is 11 to the power P minus 1. Value of P is 17. 17 minus 1, 16. So 11 raised to 16 is congruent to 1 modulo 17, as value of P is 17. So therefore, as 11 raised to 16 is congruent to 1 modulo 17, so therefore 11 raised to 96 is congruent to 11 raised to 16 to the power 6. So 96 is equals to what? 16 into 6. So I can write in this way. So as 11 raised to 16 is congruent to 1 modulo 17, this implies 11 raised to 96 is equals to 11 raised to 16 to the power 6. So value of this is 1. 1 to the power 6 is 1. So finally 11 raised to 96 is congruent to 1 modulo 17. Why we are calculating power 96? Because we need here 11 to the power 104. Now 11 square, but 11 square is equals to 121. So therefore 11 square, which is equals to 121, 121 is congruent to 2 modulo 17. Why? Because 121 minus 2, difference of 121 minus 2 is equals to 119, and 17 divides 119, that is 17 sevens are 119. So that's why 11 square is congruent to 2 modulo 17. Now 11 raised to 8, 11 raised to 8 is equals to 11 to the power 2 to the power 4. So 11 raised to 2 is 2. So 2 to the power 4. 2 to the power 4. 2 to the power 4 is 16, congruent to modulo 7. So 11 raised to 8 is congruent to 16 modulo 7. Now finally we arrive at 11 raised to 96 into 11 to the power 8. So 8 plus 96 to 104. So finally we arrive at 11 to the power 104. But 11 raised to 96 is congruent to 1 modulo 7. So 11 raised to 9, value of 11 raised to 96 is 1, and 11 raised to 8 is congruent to 16 modulo 17. So value of 11 raised to 8 is 16, and 1 into 16 is 16. So by laws of indices, power goes in addition. 96 plus 8, 104. So 11 to the power 104 is congruent to 16 modulo 17. But 16 is congruent to minus 1 modulo 17. Why? Because difference of 16 and minus 1 is plus 17. And 17 divides 17. That's why 16 is congruent to minus 1 modulo 17. Therefore 11 raised to 104 is congruent to minus 1 modulo 17. This implies, as whenever A is congruent to B modulo n, we says n divides A minus B. So here 11 raised to 104 is congruent to minus 1 modulo 17. This implies 17 should divide 11 to the power 104 plus 1. So it is how simple it is to prove that 17 divides 11 to the power 104 plus 1. This is possible only because Fermat's theorem. So this is one of the application. So what we did here, so if we observe in the solution how I calculated 11 raised to 104. This is important. Okay, whenever such examples comes, we should know how to calculate its power. First I calculate 11 raised to 16 using Fermat's theorem. Then 16 into 6 is 96. Why I don't take 7? Because it goes greater, 16 into 7 is greater than 104. That's why I take nearer to 104 is 96 in the table of 16. So 16 into 6 is 96. Then I calculate it separately. Now I have to add 8 here. So then I calculate 11 square. Then after calculating 11 square, I got here 2. So 11 square, its power 4 means 11 to the power 8. So 2 to the power 4 is 16. So I mean to say, so try to observe how to calculate 11 raised to 104 like such power a raised to some quantity n. So if you solve more examples, you get the idea about this, how to calculate this. Next example from same problem set 2a. So if GCD of a comma 35 is equals to 1, then show that a to the power 12 is congruent to 1 modulo 35. Means here you have to show that 35 divides a to the power 12 minus 1. Here a is unknown, a is any integer, maybe prime, maybe composite. So since 35 is equals to 7 into 5 and GCD of a comma 35 is equals to 1, this is given. Then so as GCD of a comma 35 is 1, that's why GCD of a comma 7 is also 1 and GCD of a comma 5 also 1. So therefore GCD of a comma 7 is equals to 1 and GCD of a comma 5 is also equals to 1. By Fermat's theorem, as GCD of a comma 7 is equals to 1, then by Fermat's theorem a to the power p minus 1 is congruent to 1 mod p. So here value of p is 7. So a to the power 6 is congruent to 1 modulo 7 and here value of p is 5. So a to the power 5 minus 1 4, that is a to the power 4 is congruent to 1 modulo 5 using Fermat's theorem. But there is one extra condition in Fermat's theorem. Our p could not divide a, but it doesn't mention here that 7 doesn't divide a, 5 doesn't divide a. Still I apply Fermat's theorem. How? Because GCD of a comma 7 is 1. This implies 7 doesn't divide a. If 7 divides a, then obviously your GCD never be 1. Similarly here, if 5 divides a, then GCD of a comma 5 never be 1. Okay, so whenever GCD of a comma 7 or whenever GCD of a comma b is equals to 1, then this implies neither a divides b nor b divides a. So that's why we apply Fermat's theorem. Now observe here, we have now two congruences. A to the power 6 is congruent to 1 modulo 7 and a to the power 4 is congruent to 1 modulo 5. So now we have to show that a to the power 12 is congruent to 1 modulo 35. Now a to the power 12 is equals to a to the power 6 into a to the power 6, but a to the power 6 is congruent to 1 modulo 7. So value of this is 1 into 1 modulo 7, and 1 into 1 is 1. That's why a to the power 12 is congruent to 1 modulo 7. And by definition of linear congruence says, whenever a is congruent to b modulo n, then n divides a minus b. So here a to the power 12 is congruent to 1 modulo 7. That's why 7 divides a to the power 12 minus 1. Now a to the power 12 is equals to, with the help of this congruence, a to the power 12 is equals to a to the power 4 to the power 3. 4 into 3 is 12. So this quantity is equals to a to the power 12. And as a to the power 4 is congruent to 1 modulo 5, that's why this quantity is congruent to 1 cube modulo 5, and 1 cube is 1. That's why in this case also a to the power 12 is congruent to 1 modulo 5, and this implies, by definition of linear congruence, 5 divides a to the power 12 minus 1. Now since GCD of 5, 7 is equal to 1, this implies 35 divides a to the power 12 minus 1. Why? Because there is one corollary we discussed already in earlier videos. Whenever GCD of a, b is equals to 1, and when a divides c, b divides c, then the product of these two integer a, b also divides c. I repeat, if GCD of a, b is equals to 1 and a divides c, also b divides c, then the product a, b divides c. So here 7 divides a to the power 12 minus 1, 5 divides a to the power 12 minus 1, and GCD of 7, 5 is 1. So using this corollary, we obtain 35 divides a to the power 12 minus 1. Thus, by definition of linear congruence, a to the power 12 is congruent to 1 modulo 35. So this is the application of Fermat's theorem. Another application of Fermat's little theorem is, this theorem can be used to check whether given number is prime or not. That is, if a to the power n is non-congruent to a modulo n for some integer a, then n is not prime. And if n is not prime, it means n is composite number. So this is another application to check primality of given integer. Now let's have some corollaries. If p is a prime number, then a to the power p is congruent to a modulo p for any integer a. So proof is simple. Here is no condition on whether p divides a or p doesn't divide a. So when p divides a, then a is congruent to 0 modulo p. By definition of linear congruence, p divides a, this implies a is congruent to 0 modulo p, and this implies a to the power p is congruent to 0 to the power p modulo p. This implies a to the power p is congruent to a modulo p. Now suppose p doesn't divides a, then by Fermat's theorem, a to the power p minus 1 is congruent to 1 modulo p, and this implies a to the power p is congruent to a modulo p. So this proof of this corollary is simple. Next, lemma. So we use this corollary to prove the next lemma. So for any prime p, a to the power p is congruent to a modulo p, where a is integer. I repeat again, a to the power p is congruent to a modulo p for any integer a, and p is fixed prime. So if p and q are distinct primes with a to the power p is congruent to a modulo q and a to the power q is congruent to a modulo p, then a to the power product of p into q, that is pq, a to the power pq is congruent to a modulo pq. So let's have proof. For distinct primes p and q, we have what we have: a to the power p is congruent to a modulo q, and a to the power q is congruent to a modulo p. Now, using last corollary, a to the power pq, now we calculate this. A to the power pq is equals to, I can write this as a to the power q into p. Q into p is qp, and pq is equals to qp. Product of two integer is commutative, so that's why a to the power q into p. But using last corollary, a to the power p is congruent to a modulo q, and a to the power q is congruent to a modulo p. So using that corollary, value of a raised to a to the power q is congruent to what? A. So this implies, value of a raised to p is congruent to what? A raised to p is congruent to what? A modulo q. So this implies a to the power q is congruent to modulo q, since a to the power q is congruent to a modulo q. This implies a to the power pq is congruent to a modulo q, and this implies q divides a to the power pq minus a. Similarly, we can prove that p divides a to the power pq minus a, and as GCD of p comma q is equals to 1. Why? Because p and q are distinct primes. This implies the product pq should divide a to the power pq minus a, as using the same fact, whenever GCD of a comma b is equals to 1 and a divides c, b divides c, then the product ab also divides c. So this implies, by definition of linear congruence, a to the power pq is congruent to a modulo pq. This completes the proof. So in next lecture we discuss some examples on Fermat's-Little theorem and some corollaries. Also we discuss pseudo prime. So everyone know what is meant by prime number. So it's a new concept of pseudo primes. So we'll discuss in next lecture pseudo prime and what are the results, theorems on that pseudo primes. Thank you very much.